and it's about how people in Ecuador were really lazy and always late in meetings. Uh, the case study basically says that because of the fact that people weren't turning up to meetings on time, the country was losing out in terms of GDP due to their chronic lateness. And they lost 4 to 10% of the GDP due to this fact. And that's when the government started to make these awareness campaigns. They would publish the names of people, of at least the government officials who were coming late to these meetings in the newspaper, just to get them to be on time in these meetings. And then they started using boards. They wouldn't allow people to enter the meeting room late and stuff like that. Something interesting. I'll share this slide with you, or maybe you can take a picture of this and just read it in your own time. Um, Now we'll just go on. Oh, sorry, I just turned this off again. What? Now we'll just start off with the multiplier thing that we were talking about earlier. Um, right. So first slide talks to you us about what a multiplier is. We've already said that whenever you inject money into the economy, and this injection can come through government spending, an increase in the government spending, it can come through an increase in investment, it can be an increase in consumption somehow done by the government through changing taxes. But either way, if a change in one of these expenditures is done, what happens is there is an amplified effect on the GDP. And the multiplier is just a numeric number that tells you how by how much the GDP is going to increase. Um, just you can just read the definition and see if it makes sense to you. It's a numeric number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that talks about a change in the dependent variable, which is now the GDP, due to a 1 unit change in the independent variable, which means when we're talking about the independent variable, we're either talking about consumption, or we're talking about government spending or investment, or maybe even net exports. So if 1 unit change happens in government spending, the multiplier tells you that the GDP is going to be increasing by this number. So I'll just go on to just show you this thing on the whiteboard thing. If this opens up for me. I don't have electricity today at home. One of my laptops has run out of battery. This is the second one. It's at 46% right now. We'll try to make the best of what we can do with this remaining battery, and then we'll see what happens next. So let me just try to connect this, and then we can resume off the session. Uh, Ah. So I think my computer isn't working properly. So we'll continue on with the slides then. So right. So we're talking about a numeric number that's going to tell us how much our injection is going to be increasing by. So, for example, what the slide shows you over here is it talks about the government wanting to increase the GDP or the GNP by 400 million. They want to figure out how much consumption do we increase so that we can achieve a GDP increase of or GNP increase of 400 million. Understand that whatever amount of consumption they increase, it will have a multiplied effect. The multiplier over here in this case is going to, the consumption multiplier is going to tell you that if you increase the consumption, sorry, I hope you can hear me. आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, sir.
Right,
Yes,
so the
sir, we
multiplier
can hear
basically
you.
says कि अगर मैंने GDP को increase करना है by 400 by changing consumption, it tells you कि यार कितनी consumption change करनी पड़ेगी. So अगर for example let's just I'm just putting a question up to you guys कि अगर multiplier 10 है तो और GDP को 400 बढ़ाना है तो consumption कितनी बढ़ानी पड़ेगी?
500.
So if I want to increase my GDP by 400 by increasing consumption, and the multiplier consumption's multiplier is 10, how much consumption must I increase?
So 40.
By
40.
40, right? So you'll increase consumption by 40 million. What will happen is this 40 million will get multiplied by the multiplier key value, which is 10, and GDP will not increase by 40 million, it will increase by 40 into 10, which is 400 million. So this is the whole concept behind the multiplier. So a little bit of reading over here. I'm sorry, but a little bit of reading is involved over here. Oh my God, I'm at 7%. If I end up, if this computer stops working, it stops working. Before 12:30 today, so that I can mark your attendance for people who are around. So let's see how long this computer stays on. The multiplier is basically telling us a change in the autonomous expenditure, which is basically changes in consumption, investment, government spending, will lead to an even larger change in the GNP. So 10 rupees change in consumption or 10 rupees change in investment or government spending will lead to an even larger change in the GDP or GNP over here. An increase in spending of one party, which was me when I got the 100 rupees, resulted in an increase in other people's income as well. Thus, there would be a growth in spending overall in the economy, and the output will increase by multiple folds. And kitna increase karte hain, that's the multiplier. And till this point, what we've said is that the multiplier is going to be um, affected by the society's propensity to consume. So rich countries that consume more, save less, will have a bigger multiplier. Which means कि जब 10 रुपए की investment वो करेंगे, it will cause an impact, a bigger impact on GDP versus a country that has a lower multiplier. I'll just show you this slide over here. This should probably clear up a lot of problems over here that some of you guys might be having. So this is a very similar example to the one that I discussed with you earlier. in this case, what's happening is that $1 million are being injected into the economy, right? So rather than me saying somebody giving me 100 rupees, China giving the government 100 rupees, we're saying $1 million are being injected into the economy. What happens is out of that $1 million, uh, based on the country's marginal propensity to consume, which is 3/4, which is 3 by 4. 3/4 is 75%. So out of the $1 million, this society over here is going to consume that 75%, which becomes 7,50,000, and save the remaining 2,50,000. When the society is going to consume this 7,50,000, it's going to go to somebody else in round two. Now these people will have the 7,50,000 rupees, and then they're going to use the same marginal propensity to consume some portion, which is 75%, and save the rest. This 75% consumption is going to the next person in the next round, and so on and so forth. All these, what keeps on happening is the first person finish first. Let's assume it's one person over here has $1 million. The next person gets 7,50,000. The next gets this much. It keeps on changing, and finally it becomes 4 million. Now the question that I want to ask you is, you had an additional income of $1 million, and it ended up becoming 4 million. What was the multiplier?
4.
4. So 8 million got
4.
multiplied 4 times, and ultimately in the economy, total income generated in the economy were worth 4 million. So GDP didn't increase by 100 million, it increased by 4 million. So if you've understood this, you need to understand that the size of the MPC, or the marginal propensity, I've already discussed this with you, matters a lot when it comes to multipliers. This first country over here, which has 90% consumption of the 1 rupee that he gets, 9 out of 10, has a multiplier of 10. Has a very large multiplier. So you put 20 rupees into the economy, it becomes 200 rupees. The second case over here has a lower multiplier, a marginal propensity to consume. So this is a consume relatively less than the first one. If you put 20 rupees into the economy, it gets multiplied by 5, it becomes 100. This one becomes 80, and so on and so forth. Right? So the size of the multiplier basically depends on the society's marginal propensity to consume. Now, last couple of things before my computer goes out is that since our GDP identity had had government spending, had investment, had consumption, all of these can be changed. So you can get money, the government can increase government spending. The government can change investment happening in the economy. The government can change the consumption happening in the economy. When the government decides to change one of these three things in the economy, it results in the GDP increasing. And when the GDP increases, it increases in folds. And by how much is determined by the multiplier. So when consumption is changed by the government, it will have its own multiplier. Investment should have its own multiplier value. Government spending should have its own multipliers value. Similarly, the government can change taxes in the economy as well. Whenever the government changes the taxes that are being implemented in the economy, it should cause an impact on the GDP as well. Unfortunately, my computer's battery is almost done, and I wish I could just quickly show you what happens over here using my, let me see if I can. No, what's going on?
It's all right, sir. We can just continue next time.
I think we'll have to go. We'll have to continue next time. I think this is it for the day. Uh, my battery is done, Ji. I'm sorry for cutting the class short. Please SMS in your in the chat. Message your attendances so that I can mark them. Make sure you message them before 12:30 so that I can mark them. If you message in later, I won't be able to mark your attendance then, Ji. Charanji, thank you very much for your time. Apologies for the problem with the electricity and all. We'll continue this next time. Next time when you come, we'll be discussing numericals related to the multiplier and some practice questions. These slides have been uploaded on the LMS, and you can just go on the LMS and see them from there. Just read through them. Most of what I wanted to get across to you has been conveyed to you. We haven't discussed the different types of multipliers. In the next session, we'll discuss multipliers and then continue on with it. Okay.